Hi Finale fans, this is Dr. Scott Watson with a brief video on using software instruments in Finale. Specifically, what I want to show you is if you create a score in Finale and Finale assigns by default certain instruments and you don't like the sound of them, just how you can change those instruments. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a score, a short orchestra score. Won't be a full orchestra, but we'll start with, for instance, a flute, and we'll have an oboe and a clarinet. Let's throw in a couple horns, get a couple brass in there, a couple trombones, and a tuba, and then we'll throw in a timpani and maybe just one other general percussion, so we can put some cymbal swells, things like that. And let's go ahead and put a harp in, and then we'll go ahead and put in our orchestral strings, the standard section, 2 violins, viola, cello, and bass. Okay, and we can give it a title using software instruments in Finale. Oops, in Finale. And yeah, so I'll be writing a little bit of music to sort of test it out, and on and on. I just want to put this in good string key of D, and so forth. Anyway, what I really want to show you is that once Finale opens up, it's going to assign those instruments what it thinks are good assignments. And there they are. I went into the score manager, and that's where you can see for each of the instruments we chose, here are the instrument libraries and the specific instruments in there. So I happen to own the Garritan Concert and Marching Band collection. That's a software instrument collection because I do a lot of writing for band. When you buy Finale, you get the Garritan instruments for Finale. That's the Garritan Personal Orchestra. It's just a subset of that collection. You can buy the full collection if you like, but with Finale you get a pretty decent subset of the Garritan Personal Orchestra, and so it assigns some of those there too. All right, so what I kind of want to show you before we put some notes in this score is just the idea that that these are software instruments and not hardware instruments. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and show you my instrument controller, the keyboard controller I'm using here. It's a cheap little Casio keyboard, but it has piano sound. So I'm turned down the volume, right? You don't hear anything. However, if I go over to my score and using the speedy entry, I'm going to click in the oboe line, so it'll play the sound of an oboe. Right? Or if I go back to my score and click in the timpani staff, you should hear a timpani when I hit. Right? So those are software instruments. They're not coming from the keyboard. They're coming from the program itself. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'll put some notes in this score, and then we'll play it back. Okay, we're back, and now we have some notes in here, a little orchestral sounding music, so you can hear what it sounds like. I'm going to go ahead and hit the play, and we're just going to listen to what it sounds like. Here we go. Yeah, we don't hear that flute part at all, so we'll have to turn the volume up there. Right, we don't hear the flute at all. But you can hear there's, horns and strings. All right, we get an idea. So let's go back into the score manager, and I'll tell you what, I happen to know that the Garritan instruments for Finale, which is the Garritan Personal Orchestra, has a really nice solo flute. So I'm going to choose that solo flute to use for this score. The oboe solo sounded okay, although I could, again, go into the instruments for Finale and choose the solo oboe there, and maybe also choose the solo clarinet. Let's do that. So we'll go back to the Garritan Personal Orchestra for those instruments. So I'm changing those assignments there. Let's go ahead and leave the horns and trombones, tuba, and instead of a violin solo, we'll go into section strings and choose violin. Now, if we know we're doing pizzicato, we could, or I'm going to just say arco. And same thing here. We'll go into section strings instead of the individual. I kind of like the sound of the section better. And same thing with the section viola, arco. Viola's arco. And celli, that's section strings, cello's arco. And same thing with the double bass. Section strings and basses. Okay, so just making a few changes there might help us. I'm going to keep the mixer open too, because we may need to adjust some levels as we go. But let's go ahead and hear what we have now. Yeah, let's pull that flute down. That timpani's a little loud. Cymbals really loud. Okay, so now I've set some levels that I think I can live with, and one other thing that we can do is I'm going to go into the audio units where you can actually see the sample player and its samples, and so in here I can also assign, say, a reverb just to give it a little bit of luster, right? So I'm going to say that it's going to be in a large hall, and there's a lot of different settings there too. And let me just show you those real quick. Look at all these things: cathedral, medium chamber, large room. But I'm going to go ahead and choose large hall. Okay, and let's hear this score again now that we've got the assignments we like, and I've sort of mixed it. See what it sounds like. Oh well. Okay, that clarinet is also too loud. Let's bring the clarinet way down. I might have to change that assignment too. There we go. Okay, we got a big horn, harp, arpeggio. Yeah, nice. Anyway, so there you have it. Just to review very quickly, you set up a score with Finale. It assigns instruments by default. Let's say what it thinks are the best. If you don't like the sounds, you go into the score manager and you can observe what collections of instruments and then what specific instruments in those sample collections were being used. If you don't like them, you can change them right here. And other things we did to improve the sound included using the mixer, right? And the mixer allowed us to set levels throughout. And we also used the audio units reverb to add to the whole project. There are effects that you can add on a per channel or per instrument basis, but I ended up just using one effect for the whole thing. There's some other things you can do with the MIDI tool and changing. You can see here you can change things like volume on a more automated basis and other things too. But all this continuous data is a little bit more advanced, but that's also available to make your playback more realistic too. Anyway, hopefully this helps you using software instruments in Finale. Good luck. All the best to you.